created to have some fun together, sharing and singing. So, join and enjoy.
Our love for opera brings us together. Thanks for being with us in this trip.
We have shared in the past other creations by Maestro Mozart or Verdi where they decide to somehow challenge the status quo or the perception of what they feel like injustice or that something needs to be done around a given situation in the times they lived. I would like today in our Parlons program, to talk about one of the most interesting creations in the musical theater that is called West Side Story. West Side Story is one of the most interesting creations from my perspective, and I would like to, and I will be sharing with you a good number of details throughout today's program as to what is it that I mean by, in terms of interesting. Of course, there is artistical value in the creation of this West Side Story. By the way, I should mention that it is created by Maestro in return, Leonard Bernstein. Leonard Bernstein is an American composer born in the early 1900s, and he decided to take very, very loosely, if you ask me, as an excuse, the plot of Romeo and Juliet. Why is it very loosely? Because it barely, West Side Story is a story of two young, a lady and a boy, a girl and a boy, who fall in love, but they belong to opposite gangs. And so this is what all the story is going to be about. You know, as in Romeo and Juliet, where Shakespeare decides that one will be a Capuletto and the other is going to be a Montecchi. So it really depends on the language you speak that these two families are translated into. So they are the Capuletos and the Montescos, two opposite families who are who hate each other so much that the love of Juliet and Romeo are never blessed. In this case, I will be giving you a good number of details that will put it, or I think will give more clarity on why I say this is one of the most interesting creations in the American musical theater. So, enough with the introduction, at least the general introduction, but let's give some additional thoughts before falling or going on with the plot. I would like to share or go back to some ideas that we have shared in previous programs around the American musical theater. In a way, somehow similar to what happens to the operetta and the zarzuela, the American musical theater is conceived, at least from the, I could say, from the more traditional perspectives, is seen as a secondary or a second level, or not as important as the opera is. It could be that way from a certain perspective also, but we are not discussing now the quality of the production, the quality of the plot, and the quality overall, so that one can ascertain whether it is good enough to be an opera, as if the ultimate purpose would be to deserve to be called an opera. Fortunately, West Side Story does not need to aspire to be called an opera, because it's a very interesting creation itself. Let's recall also that we have said in other programs that singers for the musical theater are very different to the singers in the opera, not only because of the I dare to say quality of their voices, but also because the singers in the musical theater are, first things first, they are actors who sing. If you recall the program, this is exactly the phrase that Katia shared with us. In musical theater, they are actors who sing. They have some training in singing, of course, but the most important thing is that they can actually act. While opera singers are singers who barely act. And let's be sincere, most opera singers are way too stiff. There is a vocal technique and also the perception of what an opera singer is. So that an opera singer who is trying to control his fiato finds it very difficult to run it from here to there because the scene demands it. That is not the case in the musical theater. In the musical theater, you're expected to do a good number of things so that the plot can move, can flow, and people can actually identify to what you are performing on stage because you are performing it well. You are not relying only on the quality of your voice to attract and to tell a story. I will also tell you that a little ahead that in this West Side Story, the actors or the characters are not only actors, but they are very good dancers, or at least dancers as well. More details coming. So, and even though I think the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of West Side Story, if you are already aware or you have ever seen or know some of the most well known musical pieces, solos, you may think that it is a lovely story that, well, just talks about a conflict between two gangs. And from my perspective, and for I have read, this is not what Leonard Bernstein was thinking when he created West Side Story. It is not a story of love that is developed when two gangs are in conflict. It's a very important conflict, a social conflict in the 1950s in New York that happens to give us just a small trace of light in the shape of two lovers. But the story is not really around the two lovers. The way everything is constructed is around this conflict. And I think it deserves that we talk more about this conflict. So, for our information, and I will be giving a good number of details provided that, thanks everybody, more than 56 countries are already listening. One of them, of course, is the US, so you might be familiar with the situation. The other one is the UK, so you may somehow be familiar with the situation, but the situation in the US in the 1950s in New York is, I would dare to say, very unknown to most of the other countries. So let's stop there and talk about what was going on in the 1950s. What was it so impressive that Leonard Bernstein decides to tell us a story around it? In the 1950s in New York, there was already a very good number of gangs. One thing that it makes it very special about this good number of gangs is that they were very territorial, as one would expect from a gang. If you were part of gang A, you were not allowed to flirt, to be around another neighborhood, another area of the city that did not belong to you. Each gang thought of those as their territories, and their territories were not to be violated by any other gang. You may think that there's been gangs, and not only in the US, but in a good number of countries for decades already. That may be true. But keep in mind that in New York, those years, there were already too many immigrants that the conflicts would scale very, very rapidly. Even nowadays, if you read about New York, of course, there is the fancy face of New York. New York, New York, I wanna let la 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 la. So when you think of New York City, you can always keep that bright side where everything happens, where if you want to triumph in the world, that's going to be New York, New York. But the dark side of the story is West Side Story, a city full of conflicts where teenagers, because even though they are called youngsters, in fact they are teenagers, most gangs were composed of boys between 12 and 16 years old. When they should be studying, when they should be thinking of their future, all they could do if they were part of these immigrant groups was to find a gang where they could belong and somehow fight for their lives. That's the true story that West Side Story is telling us. The West Side Story is a story of suffering, is a story of discrimination. Of course, it is a story of love in the background, but there is this story where young people, where young boys do not see themselves as having a future other than fighting for their right to have a piece of land, to have a territory where they could actually have their lives. In West Side Story, the conflict between those two gangs is a gang from Puerto Rico, and the other gang is not certainly called from a given country, but one would expect is that it's made of immigrants from other countries. So in some cases you find that they are called the European, or what they call themselves the true Americans against the Puerto Ricans. If you're also familiar with the situation, you already know that there was a very important immigration from Puerto Rico to the US that not only started in the 50s, it started a little earlier, and I will be giving you a little more details when we reach the song that makes reference to that immigration. So, with that in mind, this creation by Lauren Bernstein is a tremendous drama. You feel how the drama builds around the whole story with a very clever and very interesting orchestration by Bernstein, where you see that every little episode, every scene, every dialogue has been thought to the ultimate perfection so that they build around this conflict that West Side Story will tell us about. And I was telling you, there is a very good number of melodies in this West Side Story. Um, when singers are not singing, they are dancing or they are speaking, but everything is adding to the conflict. In Act 1, the very first melody that is very well known to everybody is, of course, the time the two lovers meet. Maria and Tony meet at the dance at the gym. I will not be giving you lots of details. I would really encourage you to see the. It is around 2 hours duration. 2 hours duration, very well worth. I would also mention that I like more, I would say, productions from schools, not only because the story is about youngsters, but when youngsters perform it themselves makes it more believable. Of course, there is room for improvement, vocally speaking, and the interpretation, but there is plenty of energy and commitment when one sees one of those performances by school groups. I would really suggest that you go and look for a recording, not from professional singers, but a performance from university or scholars. And I was telling you, just imagine these two very young kids, Maria and Tony, have finally met at the dance. They know that they are from opposite gangs, so they should not be together, but they are youngsters. And just think of the purity of your first love when you learn the name of the woman you liked opposite to somehow opposite because it's opposite in sex, but same situation has been suggested in operas before, as in Rigoletto, when Gilda learns the false name, because it is false, the false name of the Duke of Mantua, when she sings Waltier Malze, nome di lui sia amato. So Waltier Malde, nome di lui sia amato. His name is Waltier Malde, the name of the man I love. But in West Side Story, Tony tells us, Maria, the most beautiful sound I ever heard. Maria, 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 Maria. And I think I would like to mention here that from my perspective, of course, mine being a lyrical voice, is not the most suitable to give you an idea of the melodies today. One needs not an impostated voice, that is the opera's singers. So if you find someone, a young guy singing this Maria, it is very important because remember, the name is Maria. Maria, 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 Maria. So he has to sing it with such impression in his heart because this woman, this lady has really impressed him, and all he has is the name of hers. So she's Maria. Maria, I've just met a girl named Maria, and suddenly the name will never be the same to me. Maria, I've just kissed a girl named Maria, and suddenly I found how wonderful that sound can be. Maria, say it loud and there's music playing. Say it soft and it's almost like praying. Maria, I never stop saying, Maria, the most beautiful sound in a single world. With this lovely melody of Maria, that of course even tenors have included them in the repertories, I would like to insist that from my perspective, lyrical voices, of course tenors, are not the best suited voices to sing this repertory, because this repertory goes more with natural voices that are not the operatic voices trained to be heard out loud everywhere with a given technique, that we have to be sincere. At the same time that it perfects the sound, it also steals part of the naturality of singing. But now that Tony has told us about how he has fallen in love for Maria, 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 we also need to understand that not only him, but Maria is also impressed by this young, to her eyes, handsome, attractive boy. So she sees herself by the side of this boy, and of course there has to come a duet of love. That duet of love is called Tonight. And what would two youngsters would promise each other if they were to be given the choice of spending their lives together? Of course, they would decide to spend their lives together, and think of the happiness that would come as a result of it. That's what the words of tonight share us. And as you listen to this, now think, if you allow me the comparison, because remember that it is loosely based on the story of Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. And if you know Gounod's creation of Romeo and Juliet, which by the way, I've been planning to record the program for the past 3 months, or more than 3 months, but I haven't found myself in the mood of recording it. I think I have shared with you in the past that these programs, I think a lot about what to share with you, and it is not only what I will be sharing, or that I try to somehow give you a hint on how the melody goes, but it also has to do with the mood, and I haven't found myself in the right mood and the correct content to be able to share with you Romeo and Juliet by Maestro Gounod. So since I am recording this and will be sharing it earlier, you will hear this program before you listen to actually listening to Romeo and Juliet. Going back, think of the creation of Gounod, that scene of love between Romeo and Juliet at night, when he's at her balcony and they sing words of love for each other. Think of that mood when you now picture Tony and Maria singing together tonight, because tonight takes all the problems away. We don't need to care about anything else. And so Maria says, all the world is only you and me. Nothing else matters. All the world is only you and me. Tonight, tonight, it all began tonight. I saw you and the world went away. Tonight, tonight, there's only you tonight. What you are, what you do, what you say. So pay attention to these words of love by the young girl Maria. All the world is only you and me. Tonight, tonight, it all began tonight. I saw you and the world went away. Tonight, tonight, there's only you tonight. What you are, what you do, what you say. This being a duet, of course, needs a reply, a response from Tony. Today, all the day I had the feeling. Today, all the day I had the feeling. A miracle would happen. I know I was right. For here you are. And what was just a world is a star tonight. A miracle would happen. I know that I was right. For here you are. And what was just a world is a star tonight. He has replied also with words of impression. I knew this was going to be a great day. And look, I was right. Now you're here in front of me. What was just a world now is a star tonight. Tonight, tonight, the world is full of light, with suns and moons all over the place. Tonight, tonight, the world is wide and bright, But here you are, and what was just a world is a star. Tonight. Good night, sleep well then when you dream, dream of me tonight. If you've ever been lucky enough to be in love with somebody, someone to share your life with, I think that these great words and this great way of wrapping up this duet, good night, sleep well, and when you dream, dream of me tonight. So Maestro Bernstein gives us this beautiful duet, this beautiful moment where they can make a pause in their lives, when they can forget about being of two opposite hands, because things are not going right after all this. But before we get to the horrible rumble that is the main, everything in this creation is around the rumble, is not really around Tony and Maria. But before we get there, I was sharing with you that immigration is one of the main social topics that this creation is about. Immigration, in this case, the confrontation between Puerto Ricans and the other Americans, is what happens in New York in the West Side Story. But we know, and I know that you know, because of the good number of countries that are actually listening to this program, that immigration has been a problem for a good number of years, of centuries, I would say. Immigrations and invasions as well. If you live in Europe, you know that people immigrating from Africa are not well seen. If you are from another region of the world, like let's go back to the US, you know that you have lots of immigrants from Central America. If you are from Canada from a couple decades ago, you know already that there are many immigrants from Asia, mainly from China. So what makes in the world, in the way we humans have created our civilization, countries and groups, that there is always one country that has a good quality of living, and there are countries who run into lots of trouble for people to even be able to have food for the day. Immigration can be seen as the problem of the poorest, but it is of the problem of all humanity itself, because it hurts the ones who receive those immigration groups, and it hurts the countries whose culture is lost because of people who need to live to find a way to survive. Immigration is a way of survival. Immigration is not an easy decision. And it causes lots of trouble to both parties, as I was telling you. And that conflict is portrayed in the musical number America. America, sung only by female voices, the role of Rosalia, loving of Puerto Rico, and the role of Anita, who tells of all the disadvantages of Puerto Rico. So Rosalia says, Puerto Rico, you lovely island of tropical breezes, always the pineapples growing, always the coffee blossoms blowing, And Anita replies, Puerto Rico, you ugly island, island of tropic diseases, always the hurricanes blowing, always the population growing, and the money owing, and the babies crying, and the bullets flying. Ha! Me, I like the island of Manhattan. Smoke on your pipe and put that in. The other singers would sing the very sticky melody. I like to be in America. Okay, by me in America. So this is the way that Maestro Bernstein finds to put some rhythm and loveliness in what is actually pictured as a very difficult scene of life. Even though Rosalia likes to paint the nice things of being in San Juan, because San Juan is a city in Puerto Rico, the capital, if you're aware of it, Anita likes to tell about the horrible things and the justification for having immigrated from Puerto Rico, from San Juan, where they had no more opportunities to continue with their lives. So Rosalia continues, I like the city of San Juan. Anita, I know a boat you can get on, so if you're not happy here, take that boat and leave the US. Rosalia, hundreds of flowers in full bloom. Anita, hundreds of people in each room. Everything is so crowded. Because I know immigrants, of course, in more than one countries, one thing that the people who live, who are natural or native to the country, don't see it well when immigrants live in dozens in small apartments. They dislike that. But I would like to ask you, and is it that do you think that huge number of people living in a small living so crowded in those places, do you think they do it just because they like it? They do it because they don't have another option. Who wants to share a bathroom with 10 other people? I think nobody. But if you don't have more chances, more opportunities because of the place where you lived, the next thing you do is you immigrate, looking for better chances. But if you are not well received into the other country, how can you do it? So Anita has replied, hundreds of people in each room, and all again with the same sticky melody. Automobile in America, chrome steel in America, war spook wheel in America, very big deal in America. Automobile in America, chromium steel in America, where spoke wheel in America, very big deal in America. Rosalia continues, I'll drive a week through San Juan. Anita, if there's a road you can drive on. Rosalia, I'll give my cousins a free ride. Anita, how you get all of them inside? Remember that for every positive thing that Anita says, Rosalia finds a way to contradict and put it into a negative perspective. Then again, immigrants, and this is very true, immigrant goes to America. Many hellos in America. Nobody knows in America. Puerto Rico's in America. Puerto Rico, my dear everybody, is part of America. America is a continent. They are in the Americas, a group of islands. And there is, if you would like to read more about it, there is a very interesting situation between Puerto Rico and how it has, I will use the word adhere as in addition, but I advise you, I suggest that you go and read about this very particular relationship between Puerto Rico, who likes to see themselves as one of the state of America, and the Americans who have not really embraced them. Rosalia, I'll bring a TV to San Juan. Anita, if there a current to turn on. Rosalia, I'll give them a new washing machine. Anita, what have they got there to keep clean? They have nothing. What are they going to wash? I like the shorts of America. Comforts is yours in America. Knobs on the doors in America. Wall-to-wall floors in America. Rosalia, when I will go back to San Juan. Anita, when you will shut up and get gone. Leave America. Go back to San Juan. Rosalia, everyone there will give a big cheer. Anita, everyone there will have moved here. This is the final phrase that I wanted to point at. Anita says everyone there will have moved here because they know that the immigration flow will continue. If not forever, will continue. And Maestro Bernstein was very well aware of it. This immigration conflict, the true conflict that is painted here is immigration and the challenges that for the people who are receiving them it depicts. I was telling you that it is not easy for either of the two parts, and we would like to think, even though it is painted for the New York 1950s, that it is a thing of the past. And I would like to mention now a case that I learned recently in Europe. And I know that there's people in Norway and Sweden listening, so you know more than me about it. The immigration to Sweden now has caused so many problems that there are also, as in this West Side Story, there are complete neighborhoods where even police does not dare to enter. They have, or those neighborhoods are already taken by this group of immigrants where there is flow of guns, there is drugs, and there is a good number of crimes that will never be pursued because now they are dangerous places. They are called places where there is no state. There is no government actually governing anything. These are places that belong to nobody. And this is what West Side Story is about. Because in the middle of conflict of two gangs, the police is unable to do anything. And that is now what is happening in Sweden now. And of course, you can say that is happening also in France. And I could tell you that as of today, that is happening in many places now. But even though one thing that immigrants are to be called just the ones provoking or causing those problems, that is an easy way out. I was telling you before. Do you think they like to live in such situation to the place they immigrated? They immigrated because they were looking for a better life. They didn't immigrate just because they wanted to make your life miserable. And that's what this song America is telling us. Of course I had to leave my place, but I love it. There's nice things about it. And there is one person who immigrated and doesn't love her country of origin anymore. The eternal conflict of people who immigrate. And as I have been telling or sharing with you earlier, this West Side Story is not really the story of love between Tony and Maria. It is a conflict, and this conflict between the Puerto Ricans and the other Americans takes them to a rumble. I am pretty sure, and moreover, because there is people here who are not from the US, so you may not be familiar that the rumbles were these conflicts, these confrontations, these agreed confrontations between gangs to see who would prevail. So the term rumble takes also lots of social meaning in it. It's not only two groups of boys fighting each other because they have nothing else to do. It is a conflict, a confrontation where arms would be taken. Of course, given that this is the 1950s in New York, not the we are not talking an armed conflict, but these would be confrontations body to body. They would take arms like sticks, like chains, like bricks, and anything they could find that could be used as a weapon could be part of those rumbles. In the history of New York, there is, if you go to policy records, I mean records from the police, sorry, you will find that there were so many confrontations, there were so many rumbles in the New York that the police was surpassed by these situations. Of course, there were deaths, there were many hurts, many people were hurt in those confrontations, but at the end what the gangs were looking for was to mark their territory, because once you are proclaimed a winner and there were very clear rules around it, the rumbles were not just confrontations that happened or that took place all out of nowhere. They were agreed, and that is very important because rules are to be followed. A place for the rumble was decided. A time for the rumble was decided. The type of weapons that could be used were also decided. And the winner was to be called. As if we were in ancient history where people need to fight about a small piece of land, and even though it is not a war as the ones humanity has faced, it is still a confrontation between two groups of people. Just try to picture a group of youngsters between 12 and 16s who, instead of thinking of their future, are thinking on or planning on what stones or what to use to cause the more hurt to the other gang. That's what is depicted, and that's the main topic in West Side Story. The confrontation leads to a rumble that would happen very often in the New York, and that now the whole drama is built around it, because once they agreed on this rumble, because I haven't told you that the two groups, one is called the Sharks, the other one is the Jets, the two groups that are confronted here, the Puerto Ricans and the Americans, they decide that they can stand no longer the other group. So they define that they will have this sort of duel, this rumble. And once it is agreed, we listen at the distance, now not a duet, but a very, very well, an excellent way of portraying the drama that Maestro Bernstein finds when he has or he shares with us a singer calling us back to the memory of tonight, tonight, the world is full of light, with suns and moons all over the place. There will be variations to this melody, and the hope is sung taken by this melody of tonight. Maria and Tony singing these variations of this tonight, tonight, while the two gangs are discussing on how they are destroying each other. Even though there are moments of increased drama on stage, Maestro Bernstein puts music and dancing and acting to the service of drama. Even though that we are about to see the actual rumble, music is there, like trying to give us the hope of beauty when something horrible is about to happen. And it happens, even though Tony is supposed to stop the rumble, the confrontation starts. The two sides, the two groups are ready to hurt each other because I was telling you only one winner can stand. As a result of this confrontation, the brother of Maria will die. The brother of Maria will be killed on stage, and it will not be as in Shakespeare's only the confrontation of the Montescos and the Capuletos. It is going to be because Americans and Puerto Ricans cannot stand each other and prefer to see the other group perish and die before giving up their neighborhood. This, if you are used to see how it ends up in opera, there is usually all the singers on stage singing out loud above the volume of the orchestra, and also the choir and the crescendos and everything. But after this rumble that is also has a choreography dancing on it to just try to break the drama, but you cannot hide the fact that the rumble ends with the death of the brother of Maria. So the curtain falls and there's bodies on the stage, bodies of youngsters who see no future but keep fighting each other. That's how sad the end of the first act is after the rumble. In the second act, the ladies are getting dressed and they think the rumble really didn't happen. So they are singing about and having what one would expect as seeing a lovely scene from young girls. You know, all they care about is their appearance, looking good for the voice, and the future will that they will have. Why worry about anything else? That's what is depicted or what is told in the first song of the second act, I Feel Pretty. And after that, I Feel Pretty, they learn about that the rumble actually happened. That Maria's brother is no longer there, which of course breaks her heart, because now she learns not only that her brother is dead, but she learns that it was actually killed by Tony. The young guy she fell in love for is the one guy who actually killed his brother. The guy who was supposed to stop the rumble is the one who actually killed her brother. Of course, she cannot believe it. And when the two lovers meet together again, there is a second duet, a melody that is also very lovely, and I am sure that you people have heard it in a good number of times because many singers have taken it later for their own repertory. And again, there is something very that carries the message of hope, but also carries the message of sadness. Because this is not our place, we need to look for a place somewhere else. This place where you and I met, this is not the place where we will be together. Tonight is now replaced by somewhere. There's a place for us, somewhere a place for us, peace and quiet and open air, wait for us somewhere. There's a time for us, someday a time for us, time together and time to spare, time to look, time to care, someday someone will find a new way of living. sing of hope and at the same time of sadness between Maria and Tony continues. Someday, somewhere, there's a place for us. Somewhere a place for us. Time together with time to spare. Time to look, time to care. Someday, somewhere, we'll find a new way of living. We'll find a way of forgiving. Somewhere. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somehow, someday. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somehow, someday, somewhere. Just try to imagine the frustration of these two boys in the middle of the conflict, where people have been hurt, where nothing will be the same after the rumble, nothing but hope they can find a better place somewhere, somehow, someday. Of course, the police will investigate about the rumble, and there is a scene that is a scene full of drama. Gee, Officer Krupke, but that is painted with lots of dancing, and that maybe I would like to share with you now that this continuous drama has been built around spoken dialogues. You know that opera is always singing, but musical comedy accepts spoken dialogues. So there are spoken scenes. This drama has been also built, and with dancing. Dancing somehow is found to build to the drama in a positive manner, not everything falling all over the spectator. So dancing is also very attractive. And as the drama has been building, and they have making fun of Officer Krupke, who is not able to put order to the city, the scene now changes where Maria and says, "A boy like that, I have love." Because even though, of course, it hurts that it was Tony who actually killed her brother, of course it really hurt. But there is this love for Tony that she cannot forget. Tony is hiding at a place, so Maria sends a message to him with a friend of hers. And there is a scene where she arrives to leave the message that is also that even nowadays is very hard to see, because she has to go to the place where all the gang is together. Even though they are hiding, there is the area, they are still dangerous, they are a gang. And you can see that even though the friend of Maria is very brave when she dares to enter that place, she's almost raped. Of course, then again, before she's actually raped, there is the intervention, the participation of another character who stops that. But the situation is so rude, is so cruel, even though it is depicted in a choreography, that one cannot forget that women could be raped by the opposite gang. Because violence was built and was so common in those days that Maestro Bernstein thought he wanted to share that as well. Of course, it is not shown to us, as I was telling you, it is actually interrupted, But right after that scene, there comes the finale of the second act, and with that, this masterpiece that is West Side Story has strong words to us, because as Tony runs to meet Maria again, thinking that she has been that she has or that she's also passed. So he runs, he leaves the place where he's hiding, knowing that the police is looking for him for having killed the brother of Maria. So he leaves the place where he's been hiding, runs for Maria, and when he's about or when he's meeting Maria and holding each other, he's shot. This is the revenge of the Puerto Rican gang, shooting the murderer of the brother of Maria. Tony, being shot in front of Maria, actually dies in her hands. So Maria is left to see how his love dies in front of her. Tony has been shot, and Maria takes the gun from the boy who actually killed or shot Tony, and now asks, how many bullets are there? How many bullets are there? Are there enough bullets for each and every one of you? Is there a bullet for you? Is there a bullet for me? We cannot have, or there cannot be enough bullets, because everybody here has something to do with the reason of the death of Tony. It does not have to do, if we were to accuse somebody, it is not only you, it is not only me, it is not Tony, it is not Shark, it is not the Jets. It's the whole situation that we are living what actually kills Tony. I hope there was another bullet for me. But no, there is not a bullet for her. She doesn't die there. But she reminds us that this problem of immigration, these social problems, are the problems of everybody. People die because of what we are doing. If you would like to send us an email, please remember to use operawheelofsinging@gmail.com. I would like to close today's program in thanking Maestro Bernstein for giving us this absolute creation of deep social meaning. Thank you very much.